So welcome back to another episode of the Brotherhood podcast, this amazing sphere where we talk to incredible individuals like who we have today is Peter Guthrie. He's a compatriot at my current work. He's an astrological wizard and so many other things, a great father, great partner, and an overall great example for all men around. So thank you for joining me today, bro.
Thank you for having me. Honored.
Yeah, honored to be here. And is this your first podcast you've jumped on as a guest?
Yeah, that's that. Wow, that's true. Yeah. Hopefully the first of many.
100%. I believe it to be true.
You creating this space and go jumping on for a chat with me.
100%, Brian. It's beautiful because, recently for anyone listening, I've only met Peter just over a month ago and we've connected really, really well. And I went, and as I learned more about what he does and his avalanche of knowledge when it comes to astrology, and you do have an avalanche amount of knowledge, when it comes to individuals who don't know, right, what it is, and I was fascinated by what he had to share and the gifts that he brings forward. So I went and brought in on one of his sessions, which was extremely powerful, and I highly recommend it. And I have been highly recommended to pretty much anyone I speak to, is because for me, it brought so much clarity around who I am. And look, we can come into these concepts of, there can be skepticism and all those things. I'm sure we'll touch into that, but it's incredibly powerful. And the more I've journeyed, even with plant medicine on my spiritual journey, I've really felt a deep connection to everything that is around and how the stars have aligned for you to show up as a certain individual with a unique purpose on this world. So for me, it just brought greater clarity around who I am, how I show up, why I have showed up the way I show up, and any challenges or awareness around my certain strengths in moving forward. So yeah, bro, it's I feel like it's a great gift, and I'm really excited to delve into it a bit more today, and so other dudes can really understand the gift of astrology as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was really lovely doing that with you, and I really enjoy sharing people's lives with them and diving in. Astrology's really shown me, like through my own journey of learning my astrology, and then learning astrology as well. It's just that I really enjoy helping people understand themselves better, and seeing their own value, their unique gifts, allowing people to kind of reclaim their purpose again, that we are all here for a purpose and we all have our unique gifts, and astrology kind of just prints it out and puts it on a sheet of paper for you and say, here you are. It's a bit more complicated than that, because it's obviously so mathematical and stuff, but that's the masculine aspect of it. It's like a map. And you don't have to learn it yourself. You go to come to someone like me and basically confirms things that you already knew about yourself, and maybe add some value to maybe some unconscious stuff that you're dealing with and why that might be there and how to move through that and stuff. So there's lots of wisdom to be gained, and I found this through my own journey of looking at my own astrology for that.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, Brian. I feel like you articulate really, really well, and we've touched base on that, where it's almost like, for any dudes out there, can be like, you're the hero of the video game, right, in your own world, and it's like you gaining clarity around your character statistics. What are your character strengths? What are your character's weaknesses? And I suppose you touch base on there, your journey, and on your journey and how you've come to learn astrology. But just in like a Spark Notes version, for anyone that doesn't know, what is the Peter Guthrie story, and I suppose what has led you to who you are today and all the things that you're passionate about?
Well, it all like my journey, especially with men's work and becoming a man, just I had my first child, Audrey, when I was 21.
Yeah.
And as far as I was, evolution wise, I was fairly green. I didn't have much life experience. I just come out of school. I had an amazing partner, Maddie, and we had Audrey, and that was basically this the cataclysm for me having to suddenly learn about myself, about how to relate in partnerships, about how to be a dad. And without the help of my partner, Madeline, it wouldn't have been, I wouldn't be here today. It feels like very recently I've started taking the baton and started really growing from my own knowledge of self. But I guess had Audrey and just struggled with losing myself in work and just being really stressed about everything all the time and feeling all this pressure on me, and then kind of going into a little like cocoon and going, you know, I guess I'll just work, I'll come home, work, come home, and get sort of stuck in a trap that I know a lot of men get stuck into, especially when they have kids. It's like, well, I only really know how to provide on a financial side of things. That wasn't even really my strength when we had kids. I'm always like a really like sociable person and wanted to have really deep and meaningful connections with people. But you know, that adage of like saying like you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself well before you can know others well and meet people in that place.
Yes.
You know, Maddie really provided me a mirror at first, saying like, this is what you want to do, but this is what you're actually doing, and like kind of trying to make that bridge over time is, you know, it's tough. It's very tough. But I'm glad that I went on the journey that I did. The most powerful moment was probably when I walked into a men's group. Took some a big step towards my own growth and for me as well. And when I walked into a men's group and just started laying out exactly what I was feeling on the inside to a big group of men that I could trust, and it was really powerful. I didn't even know that sort of place existed until I walked in there, and I was just gobsmacked that, you know, men were actually doing this for each other. So I probably sat in group for about 9 months before I went up to what they call the NWTA. It's a group called Mankind Project. So if you're a man that's looking for a man's group, there's heaps of them around, especially in Brisbane. And they have this thing called the New Warrior Training Adventure, which is basically a big initiation process. Like we go up onto Springbrook Mountain on the Gold Coast, and basically just go through a heap of processes and try and find like the man within. And based on like the Iron Jack story that we've talked about heaps, finding a wild man, finding a lover, and finding yourself. And that was really powerful for me. I've done like heaps of work before then, and I've always been a man that shows up and tries. That was probably the biggest moment of me finding like, oh, okay, this is what I want to do, or this is the things that I'm, you know, really like I really care about. And I always knew that I wanted to be like a really good dad, really good partner. Like I always stepped up in those times, but sometimes you can know, even the person that's trying the best and has the best intentions can still be like, oh, what do I do? You know, so there's a lot of those moments, but yeah, all culminating to a point where I'm really, really like self-assured, and like I love the connections that I have around me. And I'm really proud of the home life that I've, you know, cultivated with the help of my partner Maddie. And yeah, and now I'm in a place where I'm just like, I found like something that really helps me get through to people in a way that I'm good at doing. So the astrology sessions and stuff like that, still very new. It's only been like 6 months that I've even been looking into astrology, but it's so powerful, and there's so much wisdom that I've found from like friends and family and the people that I've worked with now. Yeah, so I'm keen to keep pushing through with that. I was definitely glad to do yours, the powerful individual that you are. Supporting people like you, that's what I want to do.
I love that, man. And thank you so much for sharing. I feel like there's so many little golden nuggets in there. Because I was almost, the one question that came into mind, but you already shared it. I was going to ask like, what was the most profound or like biggest breakthrough? And I feel like you touched on it there, which was that moment where you went away with a tribe of men and had this mystical experience and really touched base with not the man that society wants to become, or the man that, you know, even your friends or family want to become, but the man that you truly are. And that's what I really touch on too with Brotherhood, and it's so important. I really felt that true for my journey as well. And yeah, and I suppose what's beautiful there is that I feel like there's many ways up the mountain, you know, like we all have certain moments in time that spark a change. And for you, obviously it was a new child, right? Which is beautiful.
Awesome initiation.
Yeah, awesome initiation. And then touching base on that, I suppose it's really, I suppose, like, what did you go through in that moment? And I suppose this really then reiterates the power of having support around, you know, and that together everyone achieves more, and creating those spaces. But what were like the main challenges that you went through? Because I imagine it would have been extremely challenging in that moment. You know, you're still like a younger lad, and then you have all this responsibility that's been put on you, you know?
Like I'll be 100% honest, like all of the responsibility that I had in that moment, I didn't really feel the whole of it because of the consciousness level that I was at.
Yes.
I knew that there was a big responsibility, and you know, I could see also like looking back and seeing how like for Maddie, my partner, how stressful it was, and how like I guess unaware I was at the time. I just yeah, it was big. I going like, even the birth story that we had, which is probably for another podcast. It was a big journey, a lot of stressful stuff, and a lot of like things that I was clueless about. I didn't really, I guess, in the lead up to it, I kind of kept naive out of almost like fear of like finding something out I didn't want to know, or like I didn't really want to dive too deep in it, which I understood it was really stressful for Maddie because she's just like, I'm alone in this. So yeah, there was a lot of things going on, and I had over my journey, I've sort of started having flashbacks of stuff that was happening at the time, and with the new level of consciousness that I'm at now, looking at it and going, oh fuck, like that was heavy. That was really heavy, and there was just parts of me that couldn't really perceive that because there was so much, like, you know, just trying to show up and be present was such a struggle as well. But yeah, like. Birth is crazy because we ended up having a second baby at home. The first time was at hospital, but we had like a big 24-hour ordeal, and it was really stressful. And there was a few things we wanted to do differently, and I was really proud of Maddie for stepping up and making the brave move to prioritize her like well-being as well, and doing that at home. And that was a massive like turnaround of experience. Like we were there, we were present. It happened like so naturally, and you know, I felt like I felt like I supported Maddie a lot more through that. And obviously I can look back and go, oh, there's more than I could do here and there. And, you know, if we ever have more, then there's a plethora of things that I want to do differently. But it was good to have that second time around and be like, oh, okay, you know, like I know a little bit more about this now. But when you're 21, there's no way really that you're going to understand all the stuff that goes along with becoming a dad.
Yeah.
Probably one thing I would say is like, just know what birth is. That'd be the one thing I'd say for any new dads is actually just figure out what physiologically happens with birth, understanding the stages of birth, the pregnancy, and then the stages of the actual birth and what things that your partner's going to need. I kind of really shied away from that, being like, oh, I'll be all right, we'll figure it out as we go along. But really, you know, to step into the birth space with your partner is a really important thing. And it's not just for the woman, it's not just her thing that she deals with. Like she really wants to, you know, see you like owning the birth with her. And that was the one thing I learned through that. And there's a lot of part of me that wants to move into birth work and help men prepare for birth and prepare for holding space for their woman through birth and stuff like that. So yeah, there's lots I can talk about from that, but definitely the biggest initiation, like there's a lot of like if I wasn't so persistent and my intention wasn't to just be there no matter what, like there was definitely a lot of times where I was like, fuck, I'm shit, like I can't turn up in the way that I'm needed. But I'm just grateful for myself that was never a I quit situation. Like I was just going to keep being there regardless. Because I know it's, you know, tough in those moments where you're getting a lot of like demand from your partner, like I need you in these places, it's so this that, and then you've got work on top of that, and like there's so much to think about, there's so much on your shoulders, it's easy to just try and want to escape from that. And in some ways I did at times as well. So
it's beautiful.
So much there.
But it's beautiful because I also just want to like fucking honor you, bro. Like, you know, that's not an easy situation. And I think it was really inspirational what you said there too, when you're like, well, you just showed up either way, because and like I think there's an importance of like, you know, it's also knowing sometimes when not to commit, but like this is something that is so deeply ingrained in your purpose, you know, and in your mission and showing up. And that really, really rings true. And so many individuals could shy away too. So I feel like it being a beautiful example of showing up even in spite of the challenges layering in front of you.
Having kids is big, and like there was a lot of times where I was like, am I doing the wrong thing here by just trying to stick it out, and should I really just like should we like not try and make this work, and we just separate and look out, like do that sort of thing. And it was never what my heart really wanted. So I guess I did do a lot of checking in on what my intentions were, as and it is important too, because if there's like, you know, there's never a it's never a good idea to push something down the street that isn't destined to work. So yeah, like I wouldn't change any of it, because like it's made me, you know, the cliche, it's made me who I am, and
Yes.
I'm a really proud father. I love my kids, and having a relationship with them and their partner that I have now is probably the most proud thing I've ever done, you know. And with the mountain, coming back from the mountain and starting to really honor what's true for me, you know, I'm on a fiscal, like real world basis, I've made steps backwards. I've left my full-time job and I've started prioritizing home first, and sort of trying to re-navigate my life and start from a place that's true and honest to me, rather than trying to patch it up as I go along and try and skip job until I find the right one. Like I've really, like the last few months has just been a real slow down period, which comes with its own stresses in itself. But you know, this is another thing that I love talking about with astrology, is like, let's like reset, because a lot of us have got baggage that we've been moving through forever, and we got these stories we tell ourselves, like, I need this, or I need a good job, otherwise I'm not worthy. You know, I had a big one that was like, if I'm not working a good job and I'm not bringing in money, like I didn't know how to use it. My financial capabilities are poor.
Used to be.
Well, it used to be poor because I was always operating from a place of like lack in every sense of the word. So you know, I forget where I was going with that, but essentially, you know, I've just like really love the idea of people saying, okay, what are all the stories that I've got now? And other like, and this gets said a lot too, but like what's serving me and what isn't serving me. And sometimes you know, it's a relationship, it's a job, it's a familial like commitment, or things that like maybe taking so much energy from you that you aren't even able to see what you would do if you didn't have that obligation. Like, so these things can get in our way, and so I realized that too. So I made a big decision to move away from working full-time until I figured out exactly what I wanted to do, and then astrology popped up.
I love this, bro, because this is so beautiful. Like, it's pretty much now what you've done. And I know from, as you were saying, from let's say from a societal perspective, from an outside perspective, someone with maybe not the conscious awareness, and you know, it could look like a step backwards, but it's like, it's a breathe in to breathe out, you know, it's like a retraction to expand, you know, and you're actually building now. You've literally gone, right, let's just fuck the whole thing, and let's like build from a pure, obviously not the whole thing, but you know, all the stuff that's not in alignment, and let's build from like a really pure foundation and start from the ground up again. And
100%. And, it's been powerful. It was terrifying. Like, there was a lot of me that was terrified to leave the job, because, you know, you look at the money and you go, oh, well, how am I going to survive with less? But we've been all right. You know, we find it out and figure it out. It's a big trust in the universe thing. Like, if like, there was a point where I was at my job and I was just despising it, and I couldn't stand it, and just there was everything about life was telling me to get out of it. And I owned it up. I walked into that office and I just said, you know what, I'm not doing you guys a favor here by being here. Like, I need to just step out and try again. And so that's been the best thing that we've done. And home life has only gotten better, and my vision has gotten better. The things that I want to do have come a lot clearer. So yeah.
And I'd love to then tie that in and be like, you know, say for example, I'm sure an aspect of you is like, well, with astrology, it's like, do you believe, first of all, do you believe astrology, and you wouldn't change it for the world, but if you had astrology awareness earlier on, it could have saved a lot of trials? And then I suppose from your perspective, then also going into like the power of astrology, and if you're in those places where you're stuck or you don't know what you're doing, like how can that help assist someone, and what are, like, I guess, the core themes of astrology and how they assist someone on their path?
I guess I'll probably start by like describing what astrology is first.
Yeah, please do.
Especially for men, we just see sun sign astrology, which is just all the zodiac signs, so Aries through to Pisces. And we've seen horoscopes, and we see people talking about, I'm a Pisces, I'm a this and that. And you've heard me bang on about it forever. Like, just the one, like, because that version of astrology is just the sun placement of your birth. And the sun, like, while it is a pretty important placement, there's like 6 placements in the sky when the moment you're born, the imprint of your soul, that determine your personality and the way that you go about life. And then there's heaps of other placements as well, the outer planets, that kind of give you more of a story of your life and the energies present in your life. Going back, I would love to like know more about it. Like Maddie was always feeding me little bits of information about astrology, like most people's partners do. And like, I'm a Sagittarius and this means that and this. And sometimes with the sun sign, because the sun is like the sun is for the universe, it provides warmth and vitality, it provides life, it gives. It's a masculine principle placement. And not a lot of us operate from that part of our being, our consciousness. Like our consciousness, we all have a drive to give in some way, but for the most part, we're not operating in a conscious expression of our sun. So if someone comes along and says, you're a Sagittarius, so you travel a lot and you like higher learning and you're bold and you tell the truth and that sort of thing, it's like sometimes that might not line up straight away because you might not really understand who you are. Whereas astrology, so places to look other than that, the big 3 is becoming quite popular now. So like your sun, moon, and rising, and that's better. Like that gives you a bigger like capitulation of who you are, because you're not just one sign, you're not just one sun placement. Your moon sign is your emotional world and how you deal with emotional security and how you feel things, how you process your emotions. And then your rising sign is how you go about your life. Your like the first impression that you give people, the energy, the most apparent energy of you and how you act. So, you know, we always talk about your Leo rising, how like you just come in and you just start making cracking jokes and being really animated and performative. Like that's probably more like more visible to me than your Taurus sun is. So it's really important if any dudes are interested in learning more about themselves, especially from a universal perspective, because we talk about the universe a lot at the moment. And my perspective on that is, if we're talking about the universe, then the stars are to do, like that is, the universe is the stars. And it's not just this unknown force or an unknown entity. Like we know that there are energies at play and they're constantly moving around and communicating with each other. And that is, you know, we can look at the stars for that information. So on that, with the rising sign, one thing I also like to talk, we all talk about the rising sign, but no one really understands what the rising sign means. So in astrology, what we have is we have our zodiac, the zodiac, which is where all the placements and planets move through in the sky. And then you have the planets and placements, which is like, you know, sun, moon, Mars, Venus, that sort of thing. And then you've got house system. The house system is like little sections of the sky that are divided up between all the signs. And this is where the energy of the planets and signs gets directed into. These are the aspects of your life that
so like career, health, relationships.
Yeah. So like first house is the rising sign, which is the self, the body, the persona, the most external expression of you. So that's why the rising sign is probably more accurate, especially for someone that hasn't really developed yet. I can see your Taurus like clear as day, whereas some people that maybe are like even younger or haven't really done a lot of self-searching, maybe just their rising sign. So their impulsive actions. And their moon sign probably more in that realm as well, because emotional reactions to things, is the unconscious reactions will come up more than the sun, because our desire to give doesn't really come through unless we know what we have to give. So it's kind of backwards the way modern astrology is at the moment. So the rising sign determines all the houses and the signs and planets placed in them, and that goes from 1 to 12. It's astrology is really complicated, but just knowing planets placements in houses can give you so much detail as to your life, like just certain parts of your life that you struggle in, or certain parts of your life that you really feel a lot of ease in, you feel really proud of yourself in. You know, there's so much to gain there, especially if you've never looked past your sun sign.
Well, I love as well, because you know, this is fucking awesome. Like, it's so cool. I know there's so many people that would be vibing this.
Yeah.
You know, because it's, you know, when we don't understand something, we can never really grasp it or come to understand the true power that it holds, and how it can relate to you. So I feel like, and I'd love to delve into it a bit more, but even from my perspective, and when you're touching base on like how there's one aspect that ties into, so for me, like my legacy, and it just like reiterated like why I show up the way I am, and why my inclination is to lead by example.
Yep.
And to build community. And it was like on the money. I think there was even a few things that, you wrote in the page was like uncanny. You know what I mean?
I remember going through it and it was like fucking cool. Like not everyone at 25, like raps to you, has figured themselves out as much as you have. So doing that was like, in some ways it made it easy to get it. Yes. Because you've done the work. But sometimes I'm just like, holy crap, like to figure this out so well. And you're like, this is the potential that astrology can give to people that haven't done the work. Is, you said at one point there was like that you would love to just like people that you work with just get an astrology reading and get a map of who they are.
Yes.
It kind of gives you the past and present, and then also a bit of a taste of the future too. So like you said, the legacy, you have your sun and Mercury, and I'm pretty sure another placement in the 10th house, and the 10th house is the place of career or the thing that you do for humanity. And so having your sun, which is the placement of like your gift to the community, in your like 10th house is basically just like bam, like who you are and what you have to give to humanity is going to be your legacy. And then all of the other placements around that support your personality and what you have to give to each individual person.
Man, it's amazing because even, it brought so much clarity too when you were talking about how like your rising sign is how you live out your life, and then your sun sign is the gift you give to other people. So for me, like I live out my life like a Leo, leadership, building communities, online, creating podcasts, all that sort of stuff, and the drive and the mission. But
what you're teaching is groundedness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're a Taurus sun. So you're teaching people how to be grounded and fixed within themselves. Because, and that's one thing with astrology too. Each sign has qualities that kind of give you like a helping hand to understand what that sign is. So Taurus is an earth sign. So it's like real stoic, considerate on the feminine side, but stands their ground. And it's a fixed sign too. So Taurus, you kind of think of the bull, like, on one hand, you don't change your mind very often, but on the other hand, you know what you want. You've considered it. So someone different like me with a fire sign sun is a bit more. I actually have a sun in the 10th house as well. Like a fire sign's a little bit more impulsive and maybe won't make up their mind, and there's the fixed quality for your Taurus minds are mutable, so it's a bit more like it's taking in information from its environment, constantly changing and learning. So that's me. Like I'm just constantly looking for more information, and making up my own mind on things is a little bit more difficult, especially when it comes to what I'm going to do for humanity or what I'm going to do in my life.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful, man, because even when you're touching base on that, and then for myself too, is as well, like the power of this stuff is, I never like to say weaknesses. So it's like you're gaining clarity around your strengths, so you can focus on those. But then it's also then where you need support, it's like, yeah.
Yeah, with astrology though, like, and it's not like I was having a conversation with someone. They're like, I don't really know what I want to know about it because I don't know the bad stuff. It's like, it's not how it works. Yeah, there may be some signs. Like we all have wounds, right? We're starting to learn this society now. We all have wounds. Like no matter what you do, you're going to have something that you're going to have to work on. Astrology comes out straight away, and it comes out through your moon placement and the house that it's in, as well as your Venus, and as well as a placement called Chiron, which is a little like an asteroid that is associated with the idea of the wounded healer. It's like our wounds become our greatest gifts to our community. So like we become masters in the things that we had to give ourselves, and then that becomes what we give on. So there's never any negatives like, oh, you're going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life. No, it's not like that. Like any growth aspect in your life is going to be rewarding and positive. And there might be things that you have to work through that are hard, but as soon as you highlight what they are and understand why they're there, like astrology kind of gives you some context as to why they're there too, because you've got to work on this part of your character to move forward in life. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic, and it helps you with your relationships. Like if you compare your Venus signs to your partner, tells you how they want to receive and give love versus you, and then you can compromise. Or if it's a good match just from the get-go, then nice, we don't have to worry about that. We know how to look after each other. And if you've got a partner that goes through emotional stress or trauma, then you look at their moon sign, and that tells you how they process emotion best. So you go through and you're like, okay, well, when he gets into this state, the best thing I can do is, I don't know, if it's Cancer moon, just let him talk about his feelings and cry it out. Or if it's Capricorn moon, it's like, all right, let's talk it out, but like be a little bit more like, okay, for the next time we do this, we can get out of the house and do something that's going to release that for you. Like there's so many ways of using this information to actually make big changes in your life. And this is what astrology has been used for thousands of years. Like this is the way that we used to operate before we started trying to professionalize everything.
Yeah. Well, it comes back to our roots, because so many of ancient cultures utilize or have utilized this. And I suppose like coming into like then the ancient history of it, like if you know too much about it, like what sort of cultures use this and how did they utilize it?
Pretty much every main culture used astrology in some way. You've got Vedic astrology, that's Indian. You've got Western, which is like Europe, and then into America. All of the astrology as an overall theme has been used throughout all culture. And you think about even with like islander communities and stuff like that, even if they weren't using it for like spiritual stuff like that, they were using it to find their way through the ocean. And the stars have always been our like way of understanding life, because it's just this big map in the sky, and the trends in the sky we associate with different periods of our life in the past, and that's how it was originally started. Like we noticed that when a certain star is in this position in the sky, this energy is present. Like we reverse engineered the universal energies through the stars. And it's to a finite. It's like we've got it pretty down pat. Like we've been doing it for a long time. So yeah, it's nice. It feels like we're sort of starting to return to the truths of the universe again.
Yeah.
And I'm really keen to help men use it for themselves too, because even on just like a very like superficial levels, like, can you make your partner happier through astrology? Yes.
100%. And that's that's something we all want, and I suppose can you make yourself happier? Like, fuck yeah, because it's like, it's just greater self-awareness.
Well, it helps you peel away from the stories you were given through your parents and stuff like that. Like even just as a parent looking at my kids' charts and understanding like where their energy is coming from, it helps me be a better parent to them, because I'm not trying to help them through my lens of how I receive love. It's like, oh, they do it differently.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's huge, being able to kind of foresee like how they're going to process their emotions. Like obviously it takes time for someone who's maybe skeptic to trust it, but give me 30 minutes and hopefully I can chip away at your skepticism, because it's powerful.
Or take a dose of 5-MeO DMT and see you are connected to everything, and realize there's some legitimacy to what this is.
Yeah. And I mean, I haven't even gone through those experiences yet. I'm so excited to do that, to strengthen my trust in the universe. At the moment, I'm just doing it through like, I don't know, I just love chatting to people about their personalities, who they are, who they're dealing with. If they've got some issue with someone, like, oh, okay, do you know the chart? Because like maybe we can figure out a way through this, because everyone's coming from their own perspective, and we're only just starting to be really compassionate and understanding of other people's positions, and why I've always been naturally really compassionate to other people. Like we came out in people pleasing qualities at first, but now it's like, oh, okay, because I can see that stuff. I can understand why people are being the way they are pretty naturally, and I understand everyone has that perception, or I'm learning that anyway. Pisces rising stuff, but it's awesome. I love talking about it.
Well, I feel like that ties in again with, we were talking about this the other day. The fact that like we all don't see with the same lens, like we may have similar lenses, but also then gaining clarity around it. There's even an NLP, like there's this thing called the NLP communication model. And it's pretty much talks about how an external event is always filtered through your own values, your beliefs, your meta programs. And then through that lens, then we create a meaning, which then reinforces some sort of behavior. right?
Yeah.
So then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's the understanding that we never see the world the way that it is, we see it as we are. So so the more, and even the work with like it's psychotherapy or with plant medicine, you know, what was really interesting for me is like, you know, as a kid, I grew up and I felt I grew up to be what my external reality wanted me to be. But like deep down, I feel like I already fucking knew who I was, you know, and it's like, but I wasn't, I trained myself to not show up that way. And
that's the wound, that's the chiron that I said. It's like we've got this innate desire to be a particular person that is very unique to others. But we get that quash because it's a very narrow existence we're living in at the moment.
And
our parents don't do it on purpose, and we need to always be very like compassionate towards them for saying like, you know, like you did your best in trying to let me be me, but me was so different to what we'd already experienced. And if we start embracing this more, then the world's going to change really quickly, because we're just going to get a flourish of new culture and people just being authentically them. And the new ideas and the new expression that will come through that, it'd be powerful.
Well, stewards of a new age.
Yeah, it feels like that. And like on a grander scale, I've talked to you about the bigger movements in astrology. Like there's a lot of changes coming up soon, and I'm really keen to start talking about it, because we've been in a sort of an age of like restriction for a while, and we're moving into an age where like being yourself is actually going to be celebrated, and like loving self is going to be the currency. You know, people that love themselves and do what they want to do, they're the most valuable people in society. And it already really is like that, but it's going to be more on a bigger community scale. It's not going to just be those few that made it to the top like it is now.
No, and I'd love to touch base on that. Like in a second, I'd love to touch base on that, because I'd love to hear, I guess, what the themes. I know that'll be so valuable for anyone listening. But I'd also love to touch base on one aspect that you spoke about there, where it was like, you know, looking at things from a bird eye view. So my spirit animal every time has come through like an eagle. Right? Not like an eagle, as an eagle. Right? So that's the spirit animal I really resonate with. And it's the same with my best mate, Jordan. And tying into that, and what that feels true to me, and after doing my own research, is that the ability to see things from a bird's eye point of view, right? So from like a higher perspective. Right. So even looking at everything from a higher perspective, right? Whether you believe in it or not, the idea of that we chose our parents when we came down here. We chose the path for like our soul's mission, right? And for people with the ears to hear and the eyes to see will understand what I'm saying. So understanding that like these things are like maps for you to just really understand the person that you chose to be when you come down here. Right. And then seeing the beauty of even what you talked about, the Chiron there, the beauty of that. Well, okay, I decided that for me to become this version of me, I would choose this wound with these parents who would give me this. So I'd have the wound to then find the solution, to then become the best version of me, to give my gift to the world. So then when you completely reframe that, you go, oh, holy fuck. Like, as you said, my challenges and everything that have been painful for me is actually my fucking biggest gift. Sources on like,
and it's not like you've done something wrong, because that's what we feel like. We're like, we're wrong. We're a square peg, and like we're a circle trying to go through a square. Like, no, like this is what we're here to be. And so when you like that, and this is the validation that people get from readings, is like, oh, actually, this is exactly who I'm supposed to be. I'm not broken. I'm not wrong. Like, and people that don't understand it just don't understand it. That's okay. Like, you know, just allows you, like, gives you permission to be you again. When you start looking for these answers in the universe.
Yeah, because that was one of the most beautiful teachings I ever got on the plant medicine journey was it was with fiber mirror DMT. And that's, you know, every journey I've had, I've gone to like meet source or God or whatever you want to call it, the universe, which is really you, but it is still it. You know, it's so hard to explain. Like,
it's all of us at the same time.
Yeah, it's all of us. Yeah, we're all interconnected. And
I can't to have that experience, but yes.
100%, bro. Actually, I shared a post this morning, talk about the hero's journey, right? I shared it within my tribe, and it's interesting. So Carl Jung had this process called the hero's journey, where it's literally, sorry, not Carl Jung. Joseph Campbell had this process called the hero's journey. He was a student of Carl Jung,
Yeah.
and it's similar. It's like a map for us to understand our consciousness, and it's pretty much a map like astrology to show us the journey of our metamorphosis, or what Carl Jung would call individuation, right?
Yeah.
Which is the process of the conscious mind and the unconscious marrying together, and the individual coming to know its specific role within the whole of the world. So it's like consciousness awakening to itself in this form, with this specific mission that is so intricately and existentially crucial to the whole fabric of life.
Yeah.
Right. So
and that just sparks like so much for me, because it just I don't know if everyone feels this way, but growing up for me, like I got the message of like, we're not here to be anything special. We're here just to get along and go along. And that just always felt so like wrong. I was always like questioning things and talk, like I'm a Sagittarius. I'm questioning things, looking for the deeper truth, and always like saying stuff that's triggering people, because I'm just like, there's more though. There's more. Like, that's what Sagittarius brings, is the philosopher. It's like, what else is there? Can we be growing and expanding? Ruled by Jupiter. And that always like really fucked with me, that like, oh, we just get along, we just get a job and just move forward in our lives. Like, it's almost like the permission of realizing that we can all be special in our own way and do and contribute. I find it hard to find the words, but it's like permitting ourselves to believe that we can be valuable to the whole, not just ourselves. And that's what you say there with the hero's journey. And I love the hero's journey too, because it's like, it gives you ideas that there's setbacks and there's movements and forwards and backwards and changing and dropping. So many of us have this idea that we're supposed to just be climbing up the hill like this, but really what it looks like is like, you know. And then astrology really provides like a sympathy. It's like, no, like you'll try this, you'll grow in that way, and then you'll grow this way. And I think that's a lot of what we need as a collective now, is understanding that, you know, leaving a job sometimes is what you have to do, even though it looks like a bad thing on paper, you know.
That's it. And it's following the themes of your life. And you know, as you said, bringing clarity around, like, yeah, fuck, this is who I'm supposed to be. And this is my line of work that is destined for me, not this, but I chose this based on who I thought I was supposed to be. So then it's like reiterating, as you said, and as I was, kind of straight off there, I was trying to allude was, you know, the realization that I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be, and all the things that light me up and all the things that come effortless to me and all the things I'm passionate about, it's fucking what I'm here to do. And it was like, it was such a relief, you know, and it even reiterated that again with your reading, you know, and I suppose then that comes back to, as you're saying, like looking to the stars, and within the stars is encoded the fabric of who you are, who you're destined to be, and how fucking crucial it is to the whole fabric of the universe in itself. Like you as an individual, whoever's listening to this, you right now, you are fucking crucial to this whole shebang, or else you wouldn't be here, right? So then it's like, then the power of this line of work is to look to the stars and understand, okay, well, I'm here. So obviously I'm here for a fucking reason. So what is that reason? And then
and it's like, astrology doesn't necessarily come through and say you are here to be a nurse. Like, what's the energy that you are providing to this planet? Because we've like, you think about the old villages, we always had like the soothsayer at the end of the street that would help you through like your spiritual shit. Then you have the butcher and the baker, and like all together we create a community that like gets along and looks after each other. That is what the themes coming forth are moving back to, because we've got to a point where we're so individual and so disconnected that, you know, stepping up and realizing the universe is there and that we're all interconnected and that we need to be working together, rather than trying to like eliminate the people that don't think the same way as us. You know, that's getting pretty old now. I'm glad we're moving through it. And I hope that someone listening to this could find a little bit of faith that like humanity can change, and that it is changing, and that our short history that we've been involved in is a very short period of time. And the way that society has worked for the last 100 years is only 100 years, you know. And we have the most power now than we have ever to individually change our reality and collectively change it too, because we're so interconnected. We have all the stories and all the all the inspirational people out there telling their stories our perspective has never been grander.
I love it, bro. Oh, I love that. And then I suppose that really flows into what I'd love to ask, man, is like, what are the themes? Like, where are we going according to the stars?
Yeah. So the big one for me, I made a post on this the other day on the Call for Love page, is Pluto. Pluto is the planet of like fears and transformations. Usually it's the fear that the fear that we deal with to get through the transformation is our power. And at the moment, Pluto's been transiting through Capricorn, and Capricorn's the Saturn ruled sign of discipline, maturity, higher authority, and all things restriction. And what has happened since Pluto has been in Capricorn, and Pluto takes a long time, like 20 to 30 years to move through a sign, and we're about to see Pluto touch into Aquarius early next year, regress back into do the retrograde thing and get back into Capricorn. But then by 2025, we'll have Pluto fully blown in Aquarius. And the difference between Capricorn and Aquarius is all for one. Like, we're doing ourself so that everyone can benefit. Like, we are being ourself. I guess the best way to explain Aquarius is it's the symbolism is the water bearer, say in the community, the person who goes to the well to get the water, the knowledge, the understanding, and bring it back to the community so that we can all grow together. Whereas Capricorn's a bit more like, no, I'm the authority, you come to me and I'll tell you what happens. You need Capricorn energy, like we need all of the archetypes, but Pluto being in Capricorn has really been the message of self-responsibility. At the start of the Pluto in Capricorn's thing, we started really giving our sovereignty away to others and giving out all of our power to those who know more, like the professional age, where you can't really say anything unless you're qualified. Like, really took the humanity away from us and said, well, we don't actually know. We don't know because we haven't gone and done that course. We haven't gone through university to learn how to be a partner in a relationship. Like, it's really getting to that point. And we need to be the own authorities on our lives and how we relate. And that's what Pluto into Aquarius is really going to give us. It's going to give us the opportunity. At the moment, we have Saturn. So Saturn's the planet of restriction and discipline. Saturn's usually the one that comes along when you're about to turn 30 and kind of shifts your foundations and tells you you're not in the right place and you need to go here. It'll take break up or something. But Saturn for the collective is in Aquarius right now. And we're learning lessons. We're learning lessons of we are all depressed and anxious because we aren't being ourselves. We aren't honoring ourselves and we're doing everything for other people and not ourselves and sort of giving away our power. So Saturn's giving us that lesson right now. And Pluto, it doesn't usually always happen with a procession of one planet going through a sign and then the other one coming through. But we're privileged now to be learning the lesson, and then the power of the fear, like, it's going to be a real big change. And it's going to be with us for like 20 to 30 years. So you look for the next 20 decades, like the next 2 or 3 decades, as being a really big change in the way that society works. The big transformation of our power. And you see it already. Like, we've got like the people making like their living from home, doing like selling their services, like who they are online. Like, their value has now become their currency, So we don't have to be a professor and this and that to make money. Like, we can share our story and people want to learn from us, so we sell it. And that's very Aquarius, especially. So that's the biggest picture. There's obviously other planets. We have Neptune in Pisces, which is where Neptune rules Pisces. And that is a real big sign of like connection and awakening. Like, we are really awakening to the truth of the universe. And Neptune's been in Pisces for a long time now as well. And by the end of that, a lot of society is going to understand the greater truth of the universe, because that is what Neptune is calling us to understand. And you can really see that happening. So there's lots to talk about with astrology, but those are like the key points. And it's really given me hope, because I used to be the biggest, and I guess this is probably really important to say, I used to be the biggest atheist. Like, everything, like nothing that I couldn't see with my own eyes was true. And I used to fight with people all the time online about like, religion sucks. And, I was the biggest triggering presence online, because I was just like, why, how do you believe in that? How can you believe in that? You don't know, that's not true. And so complete flip, lots of help from Madeline, because she has lots of Pisces placements, and like believing the universe is very natural to have. So like, I really flipped my belief system on its head, and I'm pretty glad about that because it's made life a lot easier.
Well, it's like it's your Chiron almost, isn't it? It's so interesting.
Yeah, I have Chiron in Virgo, and Virgo that's the wound of perfectionism. And I'm pretty sure it's in my 7th house, so the house of relationships. So I'm not pretty sure. I know that's where it is, and I've just always been like, my relationships have always been my biggest pain, and like trying to turn up in relationships has been really tough for me. But perfectionism, not believing I'm good enough, like I have to be better, and nothing that I do could be good enough, that sort of thing. And, you know, some people have, a lot of people born a little bit later than me have Chiron in Libra, which is the wound of relationships, not being able to, you know, not being able to see self in relationships and all that sort of thing. But yeah, mine specifically has been trying to teach myself that I do have value and that I can get shit done.
Well, Barry, I can just reiterate what you've shared here today is of fucking immense value. You know, it's the breadth of knowledge you have. So I feel like that's really reiterated that, and I wouldn't have you on this space if I didn't believe in what you have to share. And man, this has been fucking awesome. You know, there's been so many, I'm just blatantly saying it, it's so many golden little nuggets in here, and I really loved it. And thank you so much for sharing. And I feel like before we get into where people can come find you, and to book in their session, because I'm sure that there'll be at least one, and I'll be sharing it around with people anyways, to be like, hey, if you're interested in astrology, this bloke here. And I say that wholeheartedly because from a place I know the difference it can make. You know, it's not just a ploy to help a brother of mine, but it's also to help a brother of mine, like who could use this, you know, who could benefit from this. So I suppose the last little golden nugget there, what would you say to someone who's in the position where, say, like your younger self was when you were first like initiating, like what would be the piece, just one piece of wisdom that you would bestow upon them?
Oh, that's tough. Going back to, like, say, when I had my first kid, just believe that there's more. Believe that there's more. And like, I had a really bad complex of like, there's no more than this. And like, I didn't believe in anything. And really, belief is all we have. It's funny that I'm a Sagittarius and I didn't have belief, because that's everything about what a Sagittarius is. So like, that's one classic thing of like, when someone would say, you know, your sun sign, like this is what a Sagittarius is. I'd be like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know? So that's true, but it is part of who I am. So if I went back to tell myself something, I'd be like, believe, man, there's so much out there. And it's bigger, it's continuously bigger than you can ever see. And just knowing that is really relieving to tell myself, even in this moment.
Yeah, that's it, because you realize like you have help. You know, it's not all on your shoulders, and something
is. And it's okay not to understand what's going on. Like, it's okay just to say, like, I guess probably early on in my relationship with Mads too, like, you know, just saying, I don't know. Like, I remember there was one time where I just said, I don't know what to do. And she was like relieved by that. She's like, good. Now you're being truthful. Now you're being honest. That's probably the biggest golden nugget I could say, is like, you don't have to know, but you have to then, if you own you don't know, and then you have to, like, you know, look for the knowledge, but doing it by yourself internally is never going to work.
Love it, bro. Fantastic, man. Thank you so much for sharing. So many golden nuggets in there. I hope people were writing down notes, and if you weren't, write down now, quickly get some notes in of what you learned from this podcast, so it will stick. But my man, where can people come and find you?
So at the moment, I'm building like a more formal situation. I've just been doing word of mouth stuff for the moment, but I'm building a more formal offering on my personal Instagram. But so that one's Peter Guthrie at Astrology, _ Astrology on Instagram. And then I also have me and my partner Maddie are starting up a connection and intimacy business, so trying to help people, you know, call for love, which it's called. So it's call for love. And those are the two places we're doing it now. So yeah.
Beautiful, bro. And I'll link those all below. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the bio there. If you're watching this on Spotify, also be in the description. But bro, just thank you so much. So beautiful to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor. When you offered me to come on, I was like, oh, like that's it. to feel like I have a space in a conversation like this. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah. It was a pleasure, bro. Pleasure. And to anyone listening, make sure you go and do your thing. Keep following your dreams. And remember that together everyone achieves more. And you
we
are.
all have a purpose.
Yes, that's it. You are most certainly meant to be here.
Mm.
Maybe it's your time to go and find those little golden Easter eggs and follow the map of your life. Alrighty. We'll see you on the next one. I've also got another Brotherhood HQ group that has gone up. This is a private group now. So if you want to apply to get in and be part of a high performing community, which both myself and Peter are part of, go ahead, click the link also in the bio description, and then you can apply for it in there, and I'll see if it's a right fit. And new website up and coming very soon, so keep an eye out for that if you feel like you want to work together. But we'll see you on the next one. Alrighty, guys. Peace.